Welcome back to GLBC Connections. Today I was reminded of an episode of The Office. Most of you watching these videos probably are better than me and you don't watch The Office, but I happen to enjoy it once in a while. This particular episode, one of the members of The Office, Dwight, in order to prove a point, fakes a fire emergency by setting a small fire in the office, getting smoke everywhere, and locking all the doors. This, of course, leads to complete and utter panic. The office manager himself tries to break the windows of the office with a chair, finds that he can't actually do that. Angela tries to rescue her cat, can't actually do that. Somebody tries to escape by crawling through the ceiling, but instead falls back into the office area, leaving debris everywhere. And of course, my favorite character, Kevin, uses the opportunity to break the glass on the vending machines and steal all the snacks. And it's a classic case of who's in charge. It becomes a disaster because nobody's in charge. Everybody's fending for themselves, doing the best they can, and panicking. Well, that leads me today not to Mark initially, but to Zechariah 9. Zechariah 9 is a prophecy. The people of Israel are in exile and they want out, and there is a prophecy that eventually a king will come and he will work his way, as you see it in Zechariah 9, he works his way through the nations in reverse order so that he starts on the outskirts and ends coming into Jerusalem. And we hear these very familiar words in Zechariah 9. Rejoice greatly, daughter Zion. Shout, daughter Jerusalem. See, your king comes to you, righteous and victorious, lowly and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. And so here we see a prediction that this king will come, but he will not be a typical traditional conqueror. Not a great king on a great white horse, but rather a king who comes humbly and comes in to serve his people and to get them out of exile. That prophecy then is, I want to say fulfilled initially, but we'll change that word in a couple of minutes, in Mark 11. And Mark 11 again will be familiar to you. This is a Palm Sunday passage. And here it is. As they approached Jerusalem and came to Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent two of his disciples, saying to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and just as you enter it, you will find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you, 'Why are you doing this?' say, 'The Lord needs it, and we'll send it back here shortly.'" Well, here's what I want you to notice about this. Jesus is not fulfilling the prophecy in the typical way that we think of it. Instead, he's claiming the prophecy. He says, "Go get me a colt. I'm going to ride into Jerusalem on a colt." And he does that. He rides in on a colt. But it's not fulfillment in the sense that there was a prediction and Jesus happens to fulfill that prediction. No, Jesus claims it. He goes and gets the colt, brings it out, and deliberately rides in, knowing full well that the Zechariah passage says what it says. This is not fulfillment in the sense that a prediction has happened to come true. Rather, it's fulfillment in the sense that Jesus claims it. He is essentially saying, as he rides in on the colt, that prophecy of Zechariah 9, Jesus says, "I'm that guy. I am the king. I'm the one who will come to rescue." He comes unexpectedly. He's done none of the things that's happened in Zechariah 9. He's not conquered anything or anybody, but he nonetheless claims that kingship. I think that's important for us to remember this morning, that Jesus claims that kingship. In fact, I think that's so important because in so many ways we in modern evangelical Christianity, we've forgotten what Christianity actually is. In a sense, we've made it about, too often, I think, self-help or prosperity gospel. The prosperity gospel is very common. There's some guy I see on TV every now and then who always is barking at people to send in their seed money. And he keeps promising them they'll get rich if they send in seed money. That is, in its own way, self-help Christianity. The guy drives me crazy. I can't stand him. Don't know his name. But it's just not Christianity at all. And yet, even those of us who recognize that as being a bad form of Christianity still buy into a self-help Christianity rather than financially giving stuff away. We think like this: well, I'll go to church and I'll give my hour or two a week, and then I'll get some advice on how to fix my marriage or fix my kids or fix my work situation or get a sense of what I'm supposed to do with my next big decision. It's still just self-help Christianity. It's still just Christianity that is designed to make me happy and me comfortable. And as a result of that, Christianity has become about getting that sort of self-help that we need, feeling better about ourselves. That's really not what Jesus came to do. He comes in Mark 11 and he claims kingship. Kingship over everything, but specifically over his people. If you are a follower of Jesus Christ, being a follower doesn't mean that Jesus makes marriage better or kids better or helps us with our parents or makes our finances better. He can do all those things, but that's not his primary purpose. His primary purpose is he's king, and he needs to be king over us, king over my life, king over your life. And here's why I think we've gone a little haywire. We've not recognized him as the king that he is. And I just have some simple questions for you to ask yourself about whether or not Jesus is king. Is Jesus king over your spare time? Do you ask him what you should do with it? Is Jesus king over your finances? Do you ask him where you should be generous or not? Is Jesus king over your work? Would you take a lower paying job if it better served the kingdom? Is Jesus king over your marriage and the way that you deal with your spouse? Do you serve or do you get upset because you don't get your way? Is Jesus king over how you parent your children and your grandchildren sometimes? Is Jesus king over that? Or are you instead trying to make sure that they turn out to be successful and do all the things that you hope for and become all the things that you hope for? Jesus' kingship in the end leads us to service and sacrifice. And too often when we make it about self-help, what we're really saying is, Jesus, you fix everything for me. But that's not what Christianity is. It's turning all of who we are over to him and letting him have his way in every aspect of our life. In the end, the kingship of Jesus takes the Sermon on the Mount seriously. And realization comes to us that we are meant to serve and to lead a life of following Jesus with our inner hearts instead of just our external actions. So that's the question this morning. Jesus claims kingship. Is he king over your life? Or do you have some work to do? I challenge you to ask yourself that question a little bit this week. Glad you joined us as always, and I hope these are helpful, and we do appreciate you watching them.